So the disaster that is HBO Max, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse as we see the holiday numbers roll in. Apparently Disney Plus, with the movie Soul, outdid HBO Max in Wonder Woman 1984. Imagine me telling you that before the holiday, saying that's what's going to happen. People would have laughed at that idea. They would have said, oh, that umbrella guy, you're just hating on the company. But look at it now. Look at the mess here. Remember, too, everything that Warner Brothers put on the line. This stuff, like I said, it is a nightmare. So let's talk about subscriber numbers. Let's talk about these numbers. And yeah, let's laugh a little bit too. So hey there to all you wonderful folks, by the way. I hope your holidays are going great. Today, you and I, we are returning to that wonderful world of Warner train wrecks. And this stuff, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Now, in order to accurately look at these numbers, we're going to tune into Bloomberg. And I want to mention two things before we start. Number one, remember the company running HBO Max, Warner Media, their parent company is $152 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars in debt. We're talking about running a debt ratio of over 0.31. That, for them, is high. And number two, in order to do this stuff, they ticked off everybody, and I do mean everybody in Hollywood. They ticked off the Directors Guild of America. They ticked off individual directors. They ticked off actors. They even have Legendary, one of the underwriting companies, threatening to sue them unless they treat them differently and unless they pay them $250 million for one movie. So, let's look at what they got out of that. So at first, this absolutely sounds great. HBO Max streaming platform set a single-day record for downloads of its mobile app following the release of superhero sequel Wonder Woman 1984 from the company's Warner Brothers studio. Like I said, that sounds great, right? An estimated 554,000 users signed up for the app from Friday to Sunday, including a record 244,000 downloads on Sunday alone, according to the market research firm Apptopia. While mobile apps are just one entry point for consumers using a streaming service, the data provides a way to measure traffic. HBO Max's total mobile users now stands at just under 12 million users, Apptopia said. Now, you and I, we're going to continue our comparison between the two movies in just a moment, but I really want to drive something home about those numbers because they sound really impressive until you think about that in money, and then you compare it to what you can make in theaters and what they had to give away to get this. So assuming that everybody is a paying customer, that's a lot of assumption too because you get a 7-day trial period with this, but at $14.99 for 554,000 people, you would be talking about making $8,310,000. Now remember, if this stays constant, one movie alone might cost HBO Max $250 million. We're talking about Godzilla versus King Kong, and that doesn't count any residuals. It doesn't count clearing up any issues with the Directors Guild. Doesn't really sound good, does it? The same thing goes for this number here, too. 12 million users. And I realize when we're talking about user numbers here, we're talking about total mobile users, but still, Warner Media has been saying that this service, it's now approaching 40 million users. And you know what? That is not true. It's absolutely not true. They've been integrating their older users, saying that people with HBO, they count as HBO Max users, but really this thing, it only has, at best, 14 million users. It was supposed to have 37 million to be considered a success. So after everything that they gave up, picking up another million users, yeah, it doesn't get them anywhere closer to their goals. Meanwhile, you have those Disney numbers, and those Disney numbers, they are absolutely booming, especially when you consider this is high reward, very little risk, which we'll talk about in just a second. But meanwhile, Walt Disney Company's Disney Plus streaming service had about 2.3 million in global installations of its mobile app over the Christmas holiday, a 28% increase. Look at that there, 28% increase from the prior weekend, according to the market research firm Sensor Tower. That is absolutely crazy. I mean, if you think about this, they have almost 100 million users now. That is a monstrous number anyhow. And when you compare the two movies, an interesting thing happens. Soul, it's just like Wonder Woman 1984 in the fact that both movies, they were released on streaming after initially being set for traditional theatrical releases, meaning that Disney, they could have gotten the same type of blowback for Warner, but they approached this stuff in a much smarter way. They weren't so boisterous about it. They didn't just come out and drop this stuff on their partners. And with Warner Brothers right there in the forefront, Disney, they're just reaping the rewards of this. And like I said, very, very little risk associated. Now, to clarify this too, as far as Soul is concerned, it gets an international release alone. That means no domestic release. We have Disney Plus exclusively for that. But the Pixar animated feature Soul, which was released on Disney Plus on Christmas Day, took in about $7.6 million in its theatrical debut in several international markets, including China. Now, when you're talking about international numbers, too, those numbers, they are terrible. It doesn't matter what's going on. Those are horrible numbers, and especially when compared to the Wonder Woman 1984 numbers. So the weekend will be closely analyzed by Hollywood executives and investors because studios decided to release two big films, Wonder Woman and Soul, on their streaming services on the same day they were released in cinemas. Wonder Woman 1984, it took in $16.7 million in domestic theaters over the weekend. They don't include international numbers, but they're far better than that, too. Unfortunately, if we're being honest, these numbers here, $16.7 million, $7.6 million, they're not going to really matter. Why? Because theaters, they're going to slide into oblivion, and this, it's what's going to cause it. So if you want someone to blame out there, yeah, remember this stuff. You can see it in two statements here, too. First one, AT&T's Warner Media said nearly half of its consumers who have subscribed to HBO Max directly from the company watched the film on the day of its release. Now, again, you have to believe Warner Media. You have to take them at their word, and I don't. I hate this because we have no real tracking implementation. Sure, we can look at app downloads, but in the long run, everyone's going to say those movies, they're raging successes. We'll never be able to fact check that, but the people they need to believe, oh, they definitely believe in it. You know who those people are? Investors. Now this, it's saying that they largely perceive dual theater and streaming strategy as a success, but in my opinion, I don't think they see the theatrical part as the success. I think they see the streaming part. Why? Because you see shares of places like Cinemark going up and down, but places like AMC, again, both theater chains here, AMC reversing its earlier grounds, while these streaming platforms like Disney, their stock, it just keeps getting up and up and up. Why? Because Disney, they keep hitting these remarkable numbers. After they hit those numbers at a certain time, theaters, they will collapse. Mark my word on that. And after they do, you think you're going to get free movies? No, absolutely not. They're going to take what they learned from Mulan. They're going to charge you $30 a pop, and yeah, good luck with that. But anyway, let me know what you think about this stuff. Warner Media, they're going to get blamed for everything. I'm sure there are a lot of big people in that company, a lot of executives that are worried right now because their jobs, they are going to go the way of the dinosaur. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me thank you too for being here. I appreciate the heck out of you. I mean that sincerely as well. A lot of places, they forget this stuff, and hey, we'll be it under them. If you want to help out the channel too, their memberships, Patreon, all of that good stuff, plus our comic book. It closes out in a couple of weeks. So yeah, check that stuff out. And as always, well, we'll see you soon, and thank you again.